Hi everyone, my name is Rose, also known as TA Summers. Welcome back to my channel. So today's video is a tag video, and I've had the pleasure of being tagged by two people for this particular tag that I'm going to do. This is the song tag. Thank you to both Frodo and Tangible Reads for tagging me. And I think it's safe to say that I love music, so this is definitely up my alley in terms of being able to talk about and answer these particular questions. So without further ado, let's go ahead and begin. Before I go any further, I'm going to say that I'm modifying this a little bit, that I'm not agonizing too much about which songs to pick, and I'm going to choose 3 songs for each question that I designate, with the exception of maybe a few of these, because I listen to a lot of music in other languages. I'm going to have one non-English either pick a song or artist mentioned in each of these. So just as an FYI, in terms of modifying this tag a little bit, just to give it a little bit more flexibility. So the very first question that I'm going to answer for this tag is, name a song that always makes you happy. So I have 3 picks for this particular question. The first one I'm going to highlight was originally released in 1988, and it's one of my absolute favorite songs. It is Paradise by Sade. That song always makes me happy whenever I listen to it, and I'm always put in a great mood whenever I hear it. So I forgot the album that it originally came from, so I'll put it up on the screen for your reference. But that was a really good album, and it's also a very good song, and I enjoy it so much. So that's my first pick. The second pick that I want to mention is, originally I was going to choose Mickey Thomas's Sing for my second pick. And that's a great song as well, but since it's so close to when Paradise by Sade was released, it was literally released the year afterwards, I'm going to choose something that's a little bit more recent and has a great summer vibe to it. This was originally released in 2019, and I think of it as a really great rock song. It is 5 More Days Till Summer by Lenny Kravitz.
More days I'll be on my way, where my fantasies will unfold, 'cause there are 5 more days till summer takes me away.
And it is from that same album that the single Low, but I can't remember the name of the album right off the top of my head, so I'll put the cover up for your reference. But it's just a really great song, and it has a really nice summery, lighthearted vibe that really works well with me. And then for the last choice that I'm going to pick for this first question is, for the non-English song that I'm choosing for this question, is Do the Motion by Boa. And this song was originally released in 2006 with the album Outgrow, which is one of my favorite Boa albums as well. And I just really enjoy the jazzy pop type feel for that song. It always makes me happy whenever I listen to it. So those are my answers for the first question. The second question for this particular tag is, name a song that's a great fit for when you're in a pensive mood. So this really depends on how you define pensive, which, like, all of the songs that I'm going to mention in this are definitely a whole entire mood in terms of when you listen to them. So the first one I'm going to pick is actually a non-English song, and it is one that I was introduced originally to as an instrumental track when I was taking a jazz class. I had heard it played on piano, I had heard it played on saxophone, and I've heard it played on like different mediums in its instrumental, and it's considered a staple in jazz circles in terms of how a romantic and beautiful it sounds. And the very first time that I heard it, I was like, this is one of the most beautiful songs that I've ever heard. I'm like, what is the song in terms of it? So I asked about it. And the one of the musicians that had played it said the wine red heart or wine red no kokoro. And I said, it's a Japanese song. They were like, yep. It's like, it's a Japanese song that was released originally back in 1984 by the band, Japanese band, Anzen Jitai, which translates in Japanese as safety zone. So I'll put the cover up here for your reference in terms of the album that it came from. But I thought when I first heard the vocal to it, I was blown away. 忘れそうな思い出をそっと泣いているより忘れてしまえば今以上それ以上愛されるのにあなたはその透き通った瞳のby Tamaki-san's vocals. It's just such a beautiful song, and it has a beautiful mood to it, like very distinct in terms of the lyrics. And his voice and the instrumentation of that particular song just really just does a lot to communicate the emotional impact of it. So that's one of my all-time favorite songs, and I love it. The second song that I want to mention that in terms of when I'm in a pensive mood, I mentioned in one of my previous videos that one of my favorite bands is the Smithereens, and so I would definitely pick the song Blood and Roses from the Especially For You album as one of my all-time favorite songs, as well as one song that I would listen to when I'm in a pensive mood. It has great instrumental work. Pat Denizio's vocal for it really is distinct and has an emotional grit that just resonated with me from the first time that I heard it. And I think I was introduced to the Smithereens when I was in college. So that song has stayed with me for the longest time, and I really enjoy it. And whenever I'm in a pensive mood, I definitely put it on. The third song that I want to mention is a more recent song. This song was released back in 2017 by an artist that I've also followed since I was in college. His name is Matthew Good. And if you know of Matthew Good as well as the Matthew Good Band, you would know that he has been around since the 90s, I believe, in terms of Canadian rock. And I always enjoy his particular albums, but this particular song was one that when I started listening to it, it really connected with me. It is There the First Time, which is from the Something Like a Storm album that was released in 2017. And I really enjoyed it. It's a whole mood if you listen to the lyrics and the way that he sings it, that gives it that pensive mood that really connects with you. And he sings it very, very well. And it's one of my all-time favorite songs. So I definitely would recommend it if you haven't already heard it. And he just does a really great job with the song. So the next question is, name a song that changed your taste in music. So I have 3 choices for this particular question to go through. We'll start with country music, and the song that I'm going to name is actually the oldest song on this list. And I remember hearing this song when I was very young, and it blew my mind the very first time that from 1974, from her album Heart Like a Wheel, Linda Ronstadt's You're No Good. changed how I listen to country music in terms of things, and it blew me away the first time that I heard it. I know it is a cover. The original song that was that You Are No Good was from Dee Dee Warwick, which was recorded back in 1963. But Linda Ronstadt's version really stood out to me, and it's one of my favorite songs even to this day. When I'm thinking about a lot of different country rock and like even inclinations towards blues stylistics when it comes to that kind of music. And of course, I love Dolly Parton's music. Of course, I love Shania Twain. Of course, I love Bonnie Raitt as another artist that is one of my absolute favorites. But if I had to say the very first song of that genre that really connected with me, it would be You're No Good. The second song that I want to mention is, it's hard to describe this particular genre of music. You could call it industrial, you could call it kind of like a fairy tale pop type stylistic. But I remember hearing this song when I was in undergrad uni, and it kind of led me into a gateway of a lot of other artists that I started listening to afterwards. I am going to mention from 2003 from the album Enchant, Emily Autumn's Rose Red is another song that kind of was a gateway to me to listening to that kind of stylistic music. From the way that she sings that particular song, the stylistics of the instrumentation of it, it really blew me away. And I started listening to a lot more artists in that kind of same vein, including Aria, including the Birthday Massacre, who is one of my absolute favorite bands. So I would say that that was kind of my gateway into, also blends in the same way in terms of what my gateway was to that kind of music. Though stylistically, I'm not sure how to label it, but I would say that definitely Rose Red is a song that stayed with me. And I would even say that Emily Autumn has even songs that are more of my favorite that I've listened to: Swallow, Misery Loves Company, things like that. Like she has a lot of songs in her catalog that I really enjoy listening to even now. So I would say that's an example of another artist that changed my particular perspective in that genre of music. So the third mention I'm going to say for in terms of what changed my particular taste in music with respect to genre, a lot of people do know that I listen to metal music more in the vein of progressive metal, symphonic metal, things like Within Temptation, Lacuna Coil, things like that. But I think my gateway to a lot of like symphonic metal and metal music in general was with the band Nightwish. And one of the very first songs that I remember listening to in college that really led me into the genre as it was Moondance from the album Ocean Born. I believe it was called Ocean Born. And it's an instrumental track that just has a lot of like different lifts and like symphonic elements that really bring it together. That's really nice to listen to. And sometimes I've listened to Moondance to inspire me like on certain writing projects in terms of the way that it cascades in terms of its different transitions with respect to the melody and things like that. And of course I have a lot more favorite songs by Nightwish since that point, but that I remember that being one of the first songs by them that I listened to that really connected with me. And so of course, like I've listened to Over the Hills and Far Away, I Want My Tears Back, and several other songs that they have done over the years that have really connected with me as well. So I would say definitely that was my gateway and something that changed my perspective in music in terms of listening to different types of metal that weren't what I expected to be metal, but like like I learned from listening to that over time and using it as a gateway for other different genres within a genre. So that's my explanation for that, and I still love the song to this day. So the fourth question is, Name a recent song you just discovered and love. That's a hard one in terms of things because I don't know how recent we could talk about songs in terms of things because there are certain songs that I've listened to that are actually older that I just discovered and ended up loving. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to go with the ones that are a little bit more recent. First one I want to mention is one that I mentioned in one of my previous videos, Talking to Yourself by Carly Rae Jepsen, which was on the album The Loneliest Time, which released in the latter part of 2022. Another song that I would say that more recently discovered in terms of songs that was also released as a single in 2022 is Free Yourself by Jessie Ware, which Jessie Ware has a wonderful, soulful voice, which kind of reminds me of the stylistic of a lot of older blue-eyed soul artists, including Lisa Stansfield and a number of other artists that I really enjoy listening to. And then the last one that I want to mention that is a song that really connected with me. It's from the game Lost Judgment, which is a really popular sequel to the PlayStation game Judgment. Is Rasen by John Yakitori featuring Otto, and Otto is the vocalist for that particular song. I think it's just a wonderful song. The way that it collaborates with the opening theme, the opening animation of the game is just very, very well done. And I've since gone on to listen to a lot of John Yakitori's music as well as Otto's music and gotten into their respective work. So I definitely want to give some credit to them. So the fifth question in this respective music tag is, name 3 bands or artists that you love. So I can probably name 3 of each. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the first one of my all-time favorite bands is rock bands is Poets of the Fall, which is a Finnish band who I have been listening to for the longest time. I think I was first introduced to them back in 2006 when they released the album Carnival of Rust, which if you are a Poets fan from a long time, Carnival of Rust is one of their biggest songs. And really just a lot of that album really connected with me at the time that I listened to it, including the song Roses, which is also one of my all-time favorite songs as well. I also really enjoyed their album, The Late Goodbye, or I think it's called Late Goodbye. And they have a song called Late Goodbye. Lift is another one of their iconic songs that comes from that particular album.
Times when I just can't bring myself to say it loud. Afraid that what I'll say comes out somehow of right. You lift my spirit, take me higher, make me fly. Touch the moon up in the sky when you are mine.
I could go on naming several of their songs that really connected with me over the years in terms of all the albums. And they literally just released another album in 2022, which I think is called Ghostlight, which I really like that album as well. I still have yet to listen to all the songs on there, but I really enjoy it. Second band that I want to mention is a Korean pop band who I have been listening to for a very long time. I could say that I've been listening to both Japanese and Korean music for quite some time before it really blew up in the United States. But I would say the representation of kind of like a cool jazzy vibe, really smooth groove type music. This particular group is called Classic Y Project.
If you don't mind, call me back now. 어떻게야 좋아.
And I remember listening to the album Instant Pig and being blown away by the kind of music that they made. Some of my favorite songs include After Love, um, Sweetie, uh, She Is, which She Is, I believe, is from the Korean drama My Lovely Samsoo, or My Name is Kim Samsoon, which is also one of my favorite K dramas. Let's see. And I can just think of so many songs that they have done that over the years that I really loved and enjoyed. And lastly, another band that I would like to give mention to, who I don't think gets a lot of credit for the music that they make. And I have yet to see them in concert. I really want to see them in concert. They've been to my hometown a few times, and I always miss them whenever they're performing. But they have one of the biggest songs that is played like during sports games and things like that. You may know the song Hand Clap, but you may not know a lot of their other songs that they've released before that point, which Fits in the Tantrums definitely like is a band that I really enjoy. I
Don't come back anytime. I've already had you kind. This is your payback. Money grabber, don't come back anytime. You've already run me dry. This is your payback. Money grabber.
really loved their first two albums, which is Breaking. I think it's like the first one was called Breaking the Chains of Love, and then the second one was called More Than Just a Dream, which is actually one of my favorite albums. It includes some of the songs like 6 a.m., More Than Just a Dream. The Walker is very, very, very catchy. And I just love kind of like the way that they were inspired by a lot of Hall and Oates's old stuff to kind of like come to their own kind of like niche in terms of like that blend of soul and like kind of old soul type stylistic, which I really enjoy listening to. I have yet to listen to their new album, but I do like their overall style and vibe. As far as individual artists go, like let me name three. The first one is one that the first artist that I'm going to mention is one that I have already mentioned in terms of his solo stuff. Like it really has connected with me. I loved the album Hospital Music. I loved the album Avalanche that he's done, and also Something Like a Storm as well. So basically everything that he has done in terms of his overarching catalog, whether it was his solo work or even his work with the Matthew Good band. Matthew Good is definitely one of my favorite musicians, and I really appreciate him in terms of the scheme of even not just Canadian rock, but in terms of rock music. Another artist that I would mention is someone who's considered a classic artist in rhythm and blues, who has been releasing music like ever since the 80s and 90s, as far as I know, like between his group work as well as solo work and also writing for different artists. And he's a legend in his own right, Babyface. And I would definitely say that one of my favorite all-time albums, if I had to take 10 albums to a deserted island with me, For the Cool and You would be one of them in terms of thinking about how much his music has impacted me from since I listening to it since I was a little girl and then going up to now. So I definitely appreciate the work that he does, not just for other artists, but also in terms of his own right. And then the last artist that I'm going to mention is a Japanese singer who has worked both within group work as well as solo efforts. She is very well known in terms of the IVE group, if you have heard of that, and she has done a number of different songs for different anime, and I love, love, love her voice. Highlight the efforts of Eiko Shimamiya, or Shimamiya Echo, who has done a number of songs that I have really enjoyed over the years. I've loved, of course, the song Higurashi no Nakokoro ni. I love All Alone. I love Automaton, which was one song that really connected with me like very early on. and a number of the things that she has done. So like I always look forward to seeing what she does and what songs that she contributes to different media. And it's not just the fact that she does songs for anime, but also for different games, for visual novels and things like that. So I really appreciate the work that she has done, both individually as well as within the IVE group. So question number 6 is, what instrument would you like to be able to play? So technically, in the scheme of things, like in terms of my history with playing instruments, I haven't really, like, I was never in band, and unfortunately I never had the opportunity to be in something like band because I was always taking other electives during the time that I was in school, like whether it was elementary school, whether it was middle school, or even high school. Like I chose to do other electives, and a lot of the times the other electives would conflict with things like band and things like that. So I never had the opportunity to be able to formally play an instrument for a long period of time. But I was for a brief time, I took 3 months of training on the keyboard. So I think that would be my first choice in terms of what instrument to play. I would love to play the keyboard or the piano because that's something that's always connected with me. The other instrument that I would like to play, I did do 1 month of bass guitar, electric guitar, and like just kind of tried it out for myself. So that would probably be another instrument that I would love to be able to play because of the way that instrument really like connects with me. I love a good guitar solo in a song in terms of stuff, and you can probably tell that from some of the songs that I picked early on in this video. So those would be my 2 instruments. If I had to choose between either or them, either the keyboard or the guitar, it would be either one. Okay, so question number 7, name a fiction book with music at the center of the narrative. So that is a really good question. I have actually 3 to choose from in terms of this. One is a YA, one is an adult novel, and one of them is a manga. So I'm going to name all 3 of these in terms of where music is kind of the center of each of them. Like some of them may have music references that are direct, and others of them may just allude to music within the narrative in terms of like the characters playing in a band and that kind of thing. So the first one that I want to mention is one of my all-time favorite young adult novels. It is 5 Flavors of Dumb by Anthony John, and it essentially centers on a music manager who is deaf, who is managing a band and navigating things in terms of the perspective of the protagonist, who is deaf, and like navigating her disability and also helping out this band. So I'm not going to spoil too much about it if you want to read it for yourself, but it is a really strong narrative, and I really enjoyed it for what it offered. I'll also put the cover up here for your reference. It came out a number of years ago, and I'm not sure if a lot of people still remember it considering how long ago it came out. I want to say it was either 2014 or 2015 when I read it, but it stayed with me over time, and I really enjoyed it for what it was. So the second novel that I want to mention in terms of fiction book with music at the center is one that I more recently read last year, and I really enjoyed it, and I wasn't expecting to enjoy it. It is Halo by Ella Frank and Brooke Blaine. And essentially this particular novel centers on a male-male relationship between an aspiring singer named Halo, who tries out for like solid band, who's looking to redefine themselves after their previous front vocalist leave the band. And essentially Halo starts a relationship with Viper, who is the controversial playboy member of the band, and essentially the narrative navigates their relationship through the trials and tribulations that the band goes through in this respective novel. But it was really well done. There were certain elements of it that I didn't really like in terms of how strong Viper was coming on to Halo, but you know, like I really did enjoy the overarching story for what it was worth for that. And then the third one, which is the manga mention that I wanted to feature, isn't the one that you are thinking of, given like some of the topics of my previous videos. It is actually one of my all-time favorite manga in terms of centering music about two girls who were named the same, have the same first name, and end up meeting by fate. And you probably already don't know which one I'm talking about. It is Nana by Aizawa, and I love that manga. I love the anime series. I love listening to the music that came from that series, as well as the live action movie Japanese version with Mika Nakashima. I just love the whole franchise as a whole, and it's one of my all-time favorites, and I would definitely recommend it, and I definitely enjoyed it. So those would be my mentions for fiction books or even manga that center music at its heart. And all of them, I think, are really enjoyable and are among my favorites. And the very last question of this music tag: name tag people for the tags. So if you've seen this video and you have not already answered it, consider yourself tagged. Just feel free to let me know if you saw this video and you were inspired to do it for your channel, because like I don't want to tag somebody by accident who has already done this, but like it's a really fun tag. I really enjoyed my time doing it. So that is essentially the end of this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to be informed of when I post new videos. Thank you again for watching. I really had fun with this tag. Thank you for both Frodo and Tangible Reads for tagging me in this. I really had fun answering the questions. Thank you again for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next video.